A couple minutes late. Welcome everyone to Episode 3 of Gridiron Insights. I'm Jeff, little dude in the corner down here. That's Travis.
Little man.
Um,
What up, Tor?
Hi, Eva. Episode 3, yes. Technically Episode 4, but we didn't put out Episode 2. What a week. First off, Brian, if you are still on here, you should check the pick'em on our bet now. I won $100 on NFL last week. I went 10-5 and won $100 on the pick'em for the King of the Hill. That's right. That's right. Called the Pittsburgh game. Called the Commanders game. Both upsets. Those were both pretty nice. Pretty good upsets.
Can you get a Hill beer?
Let's talk some college from last week. Let's get this kicked off and try not to do 2.5 hours because that took me forever to upload that to YouTube. Any shocks, surprises? Honestly, for me, Nebraska losing to Illinois was a pretty big one, honestly.
Worry more about
I mean,
instead of looking like Mahomes.
definitely didn't look like Mahomes when it was fourth or third and like 49 or something like that to end the game. I mean, I don't see Mahomes pulling off those things.
You
Texas, Arch.
gotta find an identity for yourself. Stop trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. You know, growing up in the backyard, we all wanted to be Vic. We all wanted to be Ed Reed, Ray Lewis. Like, we all wanted to be that. But that was in the back.
Tom Brady. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady the second, whatever.
But I'm glad you brought up Texas because I want to give my take. I know you're the offensive guy, but bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all from Arch? Like, we talked last week about, like, let this be his game. Let him earn that NIL. And I mean, he did what your average quarterback does.
He did, but that's what I told you, though. I said that's what he was going to do. You weren't going to have Arch go in there and throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. You weren't going to have that because of the fact if you do that, they're storming at the gates if Quinn Ewers comes back and doesn't perform. If Quinn Ewers comes out, look at Arch, very first drive, threw that interception, right? Got down to the goal line, threw that interception. If that exact same thing happened with Quinn next week or whenever he comes back, the fans they're going to start wanting Arch. You can't have that. You can't be a number one team in the country having a quarterback controversy. It does not work like that.
Well, instead of calling it a controversy, let's go back to around, I'm going to say, and, I might be wrong. You might be able to correct me on the years if I am wrong, but it's like '05 to '07, and we're going to jump to NFL for a moment, but with the Arizona Cardinals, they had the Kurt Warner, Matt Leinart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, basically, whoever had the hot hand. Could we see a situation like that in Texas?
I don't think so. And the only reason why in that is I think the fans being too unruly. I think that when you look at it in pros, it's the thing is, and you and I had a long discussion about NIL. I think NIL plays such a major part in it. And I think the fans showing up for the game, if they knew if they knew that Texas was going to be starting something, let's say they decided Arch isn't going to play and they had someone else. Do you think that stadium gets packed? No. That stadium was packed because Arch Manning was there. That stadium gets packed because Quinn is there. You know what I mean? That whole stadium is not all based on having a winning record. It's not just about winning the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still, great showing from Arch. It shows that, honestly, next year, here's a thought. If Arch goes out next year, dominates next year, does he go pro or does he do what? Does he stay like Eli Payton and his grandfather Archie? Does he stay and do the full senior year? Does he do 2 full years of college? Or does he do the 1 full year and then done?
You mean like so? We're talking about next season, right? Like he
Correct.
stays
So next year, so Quinn's gone this year after this year, regardless, right?
one and done, one and done.
You think so?
Yeah, because so he's gonna. I will give him credit on this. He's gonna start a trend that's not really known with the Manning's last name,
Mm-hmm.
but he got wheels. So he gonna do
That's
things.
very true.
He gonna run. He's gonna forego the senior year. Like he's gonna do things a little different that we're not expected to see out of a Manning.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. My whole thing though is he wanted to go to Texas, and they had Peyton. They had Peyton on the Pat McAfee show last week when Texas. I forget who it was. The Texas versus Michigan one, and they said that he wanted to go there. He wanted to go to Texas because he didn't want the eye being on him. He knew he was going to be behind Quinn. He knew that he wasn't going to be the star. He's not there to take Quinn Ewer's job. Like, however, it didn't matter if he passed for 500 something yards in this game. It was Quinn's job. So my thing is, if that's your outcome, if that's your look at it, is he going to be a one and done next year? Or could he be that I want to learn? I want to, because he could, let's be honest, he could have went anywhere and started probably last year, his freshman year.
Well,
You know
so
what I mean?
Texas has found themselves in a really nice situation right now.
Oh yeah.
At the beginning of the year, we talked about our predictions of champions and Heisman's and Natties and all. And we all at the beginning we were all talking Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Them horns are starting to come up, and the scary part is they're going to be there, whether it's Quinn Ewers or if it's Arch Manning. They're going to be there. You
Yeah.
got national championship style quarterbacks right now, so I mean, I could see Arch maybe they win the Natty this year, and then they turn around and win it again next year. I could see him maybe trying to do a three-peat, start that collegiate dynasty with Texas again. But if there
Could you see this? Let me ask you this.
well, if there's no Natty in the picture, he one and done.
Could he be only the second person ever to win multiple Heisman's?
So he's
Do you think that could be a feasible thing? Natty thrown out of the way, throw the Natty out. Could Arch Manning go in and win a Heisman next year and a Heisman his senior year?
man, that's tough.
And technically, if we're being really honest, he actually has 3 years of eligibility left because last year he didn't play in more than 4 games, so he has that red shirt less than 4 game thing. So he really has 3 years. He could do 2 years as starters the next 2 years.
Well, see, here's the
And
thing.
then
Here's my take on it. Like, yeah, the kid's talented. Yeah, we want to picture him doing that.
Mhm.
But all of a sudden, that freshman Johnny Manziel comes in that just Arch who? You get what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to.
I could see that. I could see what you're saying on that. I definitely could. But at the same point, I look at it like Texas is still going to have a team regardless. Like, even if a freshman comes in somewhere, Texas still has dogs on their team.
Oh, definitely.
So that's kind of my whole thing is like, I'm looking at it as that aspect. But we spent enough time, drooling over Arch. He'll be the Bears quarterback in 3 years anyways. So Ohio State destroyed Marshall. I still haven't seen it from Ohio State. They haven't played anybody good, but they also have struggled. I mean, yeah, they won 49-14 in this game, but it was a lot closer than what it was supposed to be. Like, this game at halftime was still in reach for them, for Marshall.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm not sold on them. I'm interested to see how Oregon does this weekend. Going up against I forget who Oregon goes up against. I know they play like the very, very late game, but Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, 382 through the air. Another Heisman style Heisman style game.
You know what?
Um,
I'm not going to hit you with the cupcake win because, once again, it is Georgia Southern. And we've
yep.
talked about it. We've brought them up every week.
We'll see this week, and we'll go into in just a minute. We'll go into next week's games because they do start out against SEC play and a good SEC team. So we'll go through that. Nico Amaliva, that's the only way that I can look at his name is Amaliva. You know what? This game was so back and forth. It was Tennessee would fumble, then turn around. Oklahoma would fumble the next play. Tennessee would throw a pick. Oklahoma would turn around and throw a pick, or vice versa. Like it was back. It was a sloppy game. Only 194 yards by Nico. Dylan Sampson, by the way, the running back for Tennessee,
92.
he's leading the country in touchdowns with 10. He's up there in yards as well.
Yep.
He could be one as well that could do it. That could make a run for Heisman or even a top running back because once again, Ollie Gordon decided not to show up for, football.
Well,
let
me ask you something about the Tennessee-Oklahoma game.
Mm-hmm.
That was Oklahoma's first SEC football game. Do we technically welcome them to the SEC after that, or do they got to continue the gauntlet before they can officially say they're part of the SEC?
I think that you're going to go through the gauntlet for the year. I think that Oklahoma had a lot of hype this year. They've already benched their quarterback. They already said Arnold's not going to be the quarterback going forward.
Yep.
I think that Texas took that turn and Texas went from Big 12 to SEC football. I think Oklahoma is still acting like they're in the Big 12. They didn't really change anything with their offense. They didn't bring in bigger defensive guys, bigger offensive guys. They didn't bring in weapons like SEC teams do. You know what I mean? Like SEC, you recruit differently, you bring in differently, you play differently. Oklahoma's still trying to go back there and throw the ball way too many times, way too many shotgun formations. They're just trying to play. Now, don't get me wrong, their defense held Tennessee to 25, which is not bad. Their defense got some turnovers. They got some pressure on Amaliva, but at the same point, Oklahoma, that offense is not going to be able to compete with SEC defenses.
Yeah.
And that's my thing is even if Oklahoma puts up points, their defense is not going to be able to keep up with the offenses of SEC. And unfortunately, Oklahoma's defense is not going to be able to put up anything against SEC offenses. Surprising one, Brady did not cook. Vandy should have won that one. I know both you and me were rooting hard for it. Unfortunately,
it's hard to root for Vandy, but when you root for Vandy, you root for Vandy all the way through.
Oh, I so wanted to see Vandy take them out. Your boy Cam Ward definitely showed up and won the Battle of Florida again. I still wish they'd play UCF one time.
I saw an interesting video about Cam Ward, and it said that only one other player that people have seen with that kind of just nonchalant, play or whatever. And they were kind of looking towards the draft with it. Like, could you imagine Cam Ward and Alvin Kamara vibing like that?
So my thing, and it's what I told you, he does play the game very nonchalantly. He likes to sit back there. He looks like he's super relaxed and stuff. We've seen the one where he just kind of did a little step over. But here's my problem, and like I told you, try doing that against TJ Watt. Try doing that against Max Crosby. Try doing that against Myles Garrett. You're not going to be that nonchalant. And like my thing right now is he's getting that attitude that he's untouchable. And when somebody does touch him, it's going to be bad. And that's my whole thing is like, I get it. He put up numbers 404 yards, but at the same point, this is my downfall is Miami hasn't played anybody. And guess what? Looking at their schedule, they're not going to play anybody. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see Miami. Miami's great, but we're not going to know how great they are until there's 2 games, basically Clemson and the playoffs, and that's it. Um, Penn State walked all over Kent State. Michigan USC was a barn burner.
Real quick, shout out to Michigan's corner, Will Johnson. I got to give
I hate
credit.
Michigan.
I hate Michigan too, but when a man does not give up a single touchdown in 2 years, I mean, you got to give the man him. You got to give the flowers where they are earned. Like, this is big collegiate football. I can understand, smaller schools or whatever,
Yeah.
to School of the Mines or whatever, but this is big football. You're playing.
No, I get it.
You're playing the Penn State. You're playing the Ohio State. To not give up a touchdown in 2 years, and you're always on the go-to. You're that guy.
Well, remember a couple of years ago. Remember the corner from Cincinnati, Kobe Bryant. Remember, same thing. He didn't give up anything, no touchdowns or anything, and now he's on the Seahawks.
Kobe Bryant? You mean Sauce? I thought Sauce Gardner.
Sauce did it as well. Kobe did it too over at Cincinnati.
I forgot about Kobe.
The
other Kobe.
Realistically, outside of that, Utah, Oklahoma State was kind of a dud game. Yeah, it was exciting, but it was a dud, boring game. BYU just straight
Live boss.
That's not happening. But BYU, honestly, and I said watch out for BYU, that Coliseum, that stadium there at night especially. There's something about the Utah games at night. Utah State, BYU, and University of Utah, all of those games, night games, are just...
It don't become nighttime until like 11 o'clock at night. Hey, my son,
LSU.
We just got 793 watts. My son.
Nice. Clemson. Is Clemson back? We are making fun about Clemson, and now 2 weeks in a row. 59-35 against NC State. That's not bad. They were there. Kate Klubnik came back and played. Their defense is now stepping up. Could we see a resurgence in them?
Clemson's time of living in the top 10 has ended for probably the next 10 years. I don't think we'll see them in the top 10.
I think they'll end up back in the top 10 just because the ACC is so garbage outside of Clemson and Miami.
No, I'm sticking to my gun. Buffalo.
Quick.
With the upset.
Buffalo, the upset. Quick one here, just because I do love checking in on them. That Colorado-Baylor game was awesome. The ending was awesome. Shedeur hitting the open guy on 4th down, taking the game into overtime, and then Travis Hunter coming up with the big one. He is him. He is probably your Heisman front runner right now with how much he's playing, what he's doing. He's just...
And all that man wants to do is go fishing while wearing a onesie. That's all he wants to do. He is embracing a child, and I'm here for it.
He's definitely good. Let's go into this week's games. One other shout out. I want to say two teams, underdog teams, but are balling out. Army 3-0. They face Temple tomorrow night, probably going to 4-0. And the big one that both you and I were shouting all about, Navy. Undefeated Navy putting up points. This ain't the same old veer option Navy. They are putting up points. They're passing the ball. They're running the ball. And their defense is stout. That Army-Navy game this year could potentially be the best Army-Navy game we've seen in 20 years.
Real quick, hey, before we get to that game, go ahead. Over under 70?
In what, that Army-Navy game?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Over.
Over.
Over. I think over for sure.
Let's go Miami. A Big Ten.
Friday night.
Hey, that's Virginia. it ain't Virginia Tech that we have known them to be in the past, but it is still Virginia Tech. That is always
And it's also in Miami. That's the big thing. I feel more confident taking the over 54.5 than I do taking it is Miami minus 20. And that kind of scares me a little bit more than the 54.5. I think the 54.5, you could see Miami put up 45 or so, and then maybe see Virginia Tech put up 10.
I was going the other way. I see Miami put up 50 alone, and then they get a garbage time touchdown. Did you?
Yeah, I like Miami. At least to win the game, I like Miami over Virginia Tech. Next game, like I said, we finally get to see it. Jackson Dart, Ole Miss against Kentucky. Kentucky is traveling to Ole Miss. We finally get to see him face a defense. We watched Georgia struggle against Kentucky's defense. I am very interested to see how Jackson Dart can do against it. 17.5, I still don't think is enough points. I still think Ole Miss wins this game by 25 plus. But we're finally going to see Jackson Dart versus an SEC school, something that you've been asking for. And now we finally get it. I expect him to play at least through the third quarter. I don't know if he'll play the fourth quarter, but at least through the third quarter, he'll probably have close to 400 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns as always.
Upset alert.
You're going upset on Kentucky? No way. Not happening.
Let me recant that, okay? Does Kentucky beat Ole Miss? No. Does Ole Miss beat Kentucky by like a field goal? Absolutely. It's going to be one of those, just like we saw with Georgia. Kentucky is coming because everybody, Kentucky knows we are already written off.
Here's the thing, though. Let me pull this up here real quick. Next week, so they've got Kentucky this week. Then they've got at South Carolina next week for Ole Miss. I just don't see them not being prepared for this game enough. You got your home game, and then you're going on the road. You're not going to not show up for your fans at home. You go at South Carolina, at LSU, home versus Oklahoma, at Arkansas, home versus Georgia. I just think that they're looking at this one, hey, we're not going to be back home for almost a month. They aren't going to be home for a month. The next home game is October 26th. So you're coming out with this one as first conference game. We need to come out. We need to show our home crowd what we've got. And I think that's kind of the main thing for me is that's what you're going to see is Ole Miss come out and just walk them.
Okay, like I said, I feel like I said, Ole Miss comes off with a win, but I'm not taking the negative 17.5.
I'm not going through every game, just even all the ranked games, just because we seem to do that, and it's like we're taking 2 hours to do it. I don't really care about Minnesota, Michigan. I don't really care about Oklahoma State, Kansas State.
Let's talk about Notre Dame, Louisville.
One sec. Before we jump to that one, I like BYU at Baylor. I like BYU minus the 3.5. I do like BYU to cover that one. I actually like BYU straight up.
Yeah.
Does Nebraska bounce back at Purdue?
Let me get to it real quick.
If you're on the schedule, if you're on NCAAF schedule on ESPN, it's like 8 down. Nebraska at Purdue.
I got Oklahoma State, Kansas State, BYU, Baylor, Wisconsin, USC, Louisville, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Auburn, Arkansas.
Oh, are you looking at just the rank?
No.
You're sure you're looking at all games and not just the ranked ones?
Yeah.
Because all the teams that you just named off are the ranked ones.
Washington State, Boise State.
That's a ranked game. Boise
Yep.
State is ranked 25th in the country.
Hey, look at that. Hold up. Oh, hey, guess what? I found it. Did I?
But do they get to bounce back against Purdue? I mean, it's a 10-point spread, but this is where we get to see how Dylan really can handle overcoming a negative aspect. There's been a lot of stuff all week in social media, and it's been all over. Like, it was a laughingstock, him being, what, 3rd and 49 in overtime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Can he bounce back? Does he have that mental ability to bounce back? I think it's a close game. I don't see Nebraska winning by 10. I think it's going to be a close game.
I can see a close game, last second. Nebraska wins by 1 because Purdue missed a game-winning field goal.
I said my lock of the week, not my underdog, not my upset underdog, or my big pug. Everybody, I've always put Nike up and showed Nike my pug, which is what our big pug underdog of the week is. Unfortunately, Nike passed away last Friday. T's and P's to him. But still going to keep big pug upset of the week. This is not my big pug upset of the week, but Navy -3.5 over UAB all day, every day. I know you from Bama.
No, I'm rolling with you. If Navy cannot beat UAB by more than 3, we got a huge problem.
Yeah. The Navy team that I sat there and watched the other day when we were sitting here going back and forth on it, that Navy team that I watched could compete with, honestly, some of these Power 4 conference teams. I'm not saying the Georgia or the Bamas or anything like that, but I'm saying it would not shock me if Navy was in the ACC. You can't tell me Navy wouldn't be able to beat at least over 50% of the ACC. You can't tell me that Navy wouldn't compete against Syracuse. Navy wouldn't be able to compete with a team like TCU or Oklahoma State even.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
Wisconsin, USC. That'll be interesting to see if USC bounces back. Miller Moss, if they can start getting that Big 12 going. You wanted to talk about Louisville, Notre Dame. Go ahead.
No, actually, it's the game right after that I want to talk about.
Okay. Well, I'll go in it. I think Notre Dame wins this one. I think Notre Dame struggled against, who was it that they came out and lost to a couple weeks ago?
1 second.
And we were laughing at them. Was it Central Illinois or something like that, or Central Michigan or something?
Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois. I think Notre Dame has found their stride. They've bounced back very well. And this is obviously a ranked team, 15 versus 16. Good matchup, but it's in Notre Dame. It's in Notre Dame, Indiana. The 6.5. I just don't see them losing this one. Go ahead, because I know which one you're wanting to talk about.
Big Pug upset. Oklahoma takes its second SEC beating. Then Jordan Hare. Hey, look, ranked or unranked, it is always hard to go into Jordan Hare. Okay, so my son used to live walking 15 minutes from the stadium. And when it's almost like Tuscaloosa, right? The ground shakes. That is a hard place to play. Oklahoma's already coming off and getting smacked in the mouth. Sorry, Oklahoma, you've been in the top 25 for how many years? Time to take the back burner. You're going to be down there with the Kentuckys and the Vandies of the SEC for a while.
I can agree with that. I can agree. Auburn's playing good. They got a good defense. I do like that. I also like Arkansas to pull the upset over Texas A&M.
Whoa, you can't go against the Aggies now. Hold up. Because they're They're at the AT&T Stadium. Hey,
They're
chick.
exactly, exactly. It's not Kyle Field.
Yeah.
If it was Kyle Field, yes, I would absolutely say Texas A&M, you got the advantage. But it's, I mean, I understand it's in Arlington, but this is a neutral site game. You got Texas A&M, you got Arkansas right there, and I just think Arkansas has came off. They've played good. Last week they should have gotten the win, and they blew it. And I think they bounced back. They beat Texas A&M.
So that's your big pug.
That is not my big plug upset of the week.
Don't.
Give me Colorado. I'm riding with them again. -4. They are plus 14 and a half. You can take the points if you want to. Travis Hunter is not going to let this team die. They had their bad game, but UCF, what's so special about UCF? UCF has played garbage teams this year. They have not been pushed at all. They have played
They're national champions alone.
57-3 against New Hampshire, 45-14 against Sam Houston, and then 35-34 against a TCU team that is not that great. So, Brian, you can sit there and tell me, quit riding the Colorado train. If you like money, put it on Colorado to win, because that's going to be probably about plus 350 of your money. You want to bet 100, you win 300. That's the way that you win money.
Does Colorado blow them out?
I think so. I think I'm shocked that this spread is not flipped. Quite honestly. You tell me the level of play that Colorado has played compared to what UCF is. Why is this spread 14 and a half? It's the exact same thing that we talked about when Oregon and Boise State played. And we looked at it and we said, why is this? Now, yeah, in that game, I ended up taking the points with Oregon, but that's just because I had a crap betting day, and I was like, sure, well, I'm going to try to root for my team and hope that they can cover. Did I think they were going to cover? No. But the same exact thing. There's no reason why UCF... Can anybody on UCF cover Travis Hunter? And then counter that, UCF's best offensive wide receiver. Are they going to be able to escape Travis Hunter? No. It's not going to happen. Colorado, if you want to take the plus 14 and a half, go for it. I think you're wasting money at that point because I think Colorado just is going to simply win the game. They've played better competition. Yeah, they're going all the way to UCF, but guess what that means? Orlando, Florida, good weather. They don't got to worry about any weather. They don't got to worry. They're out there in Colorado. And guess what? Now they get to go down to Orlando, Florida. And it's a 1:30 game. 1:30 game, so you're not talking a late night game. You're not talking an early morning game where they're all thrown off. 1:30 in Orlando, Florida is what? 11:30 Colorado time?
Well,
They're going to be fine.
Easy now, because that Florida weather hit different. Like that 83 degrees don't feel like 83 degrees. Like
nothing. One interesting one that I do want to bring up though. Fresno State at UNLV. UNLV -2. Everything that came out today with UNLV. Is that spread? Is that going to be an accurate spread there with UNLV? Now, you got to think, this came out on a Wednesday. They've got game on Saturday afternoon, Saturday 1:30. How prepared is that backup quarterback going to be?
Yeah.
How prepared is the whole team going to be? Because think about this also. If one guy was told you're going to get this money, and now they're getting told not, how many other guys on that team that transferred or anything was told, yeah, you're going to get this, and they've been given this excuse of, oh, we're waiting, oh, there's an issue, and yada, yada, yada.
Well, I've done
and now
I sent you the link showing that a second player is I want to say it was running back. But to answer your question about how prepared is that backup quarterback going to be, I'm not so concerned about the backup quarterback. I want to know how the backup to the backup is. Because we all know the primary backup quarterback, he is your clipboard holder. He is the one reading for the quarterback, giving him check down, showing him. Most of the time, they're the one talking to each other in the mics. So the backup will be fine. but we don't know what durability is going to be. Has he taken any hits and stuff like that? And I want to know what the backup to the backup is. He ready?
Yep. Scroll down here, Mississippi State, Texas. Texas 38.5. Again, don't care about the spread. Don't even really care about the game. I just want to know how Arch is going to do. That's all I really care about. Is Quinn back? Is he not back? If not, Arch, yada, 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 you know? Ohio State, Michigan State. That Ohio State at Michigan State game,
It's always scary.
I understand. It's always scary. So this thing right here of being minus 24, to me, I like Michigan State in that. Like, they have the over-under at 48.5 points. So they're only expecting a total of 48.5 points. Yet you've got the spread set all the way at 24. So to me, if you think both teams combined are going to score right around about 48, 49 points, unless you expect it to be 48-0, I don't see how you don't take those 24 points. I'm not saying Michigan State's going to win at all, but I do think it could be 28 and then Michigan State gets a garbage touchdown at the end that Ohio State just doesn't really care about.
Yeah.
Don't really care about Clemson, Stanford, Iowa State, Houston.
Big game. The 5:30.
Hold on. Let's skip that one real quick here because I got something for you. Illinois, Penn State. This is Penn State minus 19, but it is a night game. A night game.
Is it a whiteout?
I don't know if it's the whiteout, but regardless, it's a night game at Beaver Stadium. I like Penn State to win. I just don't know if they're going to win by the 19. Does Florida State win against SMU? I got SMU in that one. Couple quick more here. Boise State, we got our biggest game of the year against Washington State. I tried looking at tickets to go to that game, and holy moly, I can't sell my kidney, unfortunately. We got the kids this weekend. We are going to try to look at going to the game. Bleacher seats all the way up in the nosebleed sections are still going off at like $150 a piece. So
30.
If anybody on this app or anything like that has tickets and would like to, help a brother out, we'll give you a shout out. We will let you have a guest spot on next week's show. But
And we'll have a live show at the game.
yeah, absolutely. Boise State minus 7.5 though. I don't like that. I like Washington State not to win the game. I think Boise may win, but I think it's going to be by a field goal at the end. Washington State puts up points, and from what I've seen with Boise, because we live here and I've watched on them, the back end of that team, the safeties and DBs are the downfall of that team, and Washington State can throw the ball, and I think that's where the issue is going to be. I think Boise will run the ball fine, but I think Washington State's throwing the ball keeps them in the game and keeps this game a lot closer than that 7.5.
Over under. Gentry, 200 yards rushing.
Over. Easily over. I think Genty is going to be over 200, and he'll probably have 3 touchdowns, honestly. Arizona, Utah, that 8:15 game live on ESPN, that's going to be a great game. I do think Utah pulls it out, but don't be shocked if Arizona keeps it close. The minus 11, I'm still not sold on Zach Wilson back to college. Still not sold on that yet. I don't know if Cam Rising's playing or not, but regardless, Fafala for Arizona and their wide receiver, they've been a little bit offset, but this is a team that needs to come back. Keith, you're a little bit late. We already talked about horns up.
Well, they're flicking. Like we can't quite do that because we're an Aggies family. So we
oh God, back there with that. Oregon, UCLA. Oregon minus 25.5. I think Oregon's found their rhythm, but it is at the Rose Bowl. It is against UCLA. I don't know about. I like the 55.5 over. I like the total points over. I don't like the 25.5. I think this could be a game where it could end up being like 42-30 or something like that. I think Oregon will win the game. I think it's going to be one of those games where Oregon's going to get up by like 14 or 21, and it's going to kind of stay there. Like UCLA may get points, but then Oregon's going to come back and get points. You know what I mean?
If UCLA's defense plays the way it plays the first 3 quarters of that game against LSU, Oregon is going to be in for a fight. Oregon's going to win it. Just like you said, I mean, you said 12 points. I'll give it 10. Oregon's going to have to. They're going to have to play 4 quarters of football.
Oh yeah. All right. Scroll up, and I'll let you take the reins on the big one.
Man, so much to talk about. We have a Georgia team that.
First off, real quick, do you see the price for the tickets on this game?
Tickets as low as $254.
That's as low. That's the low end.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it be like the Charlotte Rice game? Tickets as low as $8.
So this game is going to tell us a lot about the college football playoffs. So neither one of these offenses have really shown anything other than with Bama, with Lank. He does have the little 17-year-old that he's open and just throwing it. He does have that, and then he can run. So Bama's offense really hasn't found that, that click.
Yep.
It's all Georgia, and everybody knows Georgia. They just keep feeding new talent. The running back, quarterback, tight end, receiver, just back. And we haven't really seen that out of Georgia. Like, they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the year, I said that this would be the first game that DeBoer loses. And I've got to stick with it. I don't think 48 and a half is going to be scored. I think it'll be a defensive game. You might look at 38, 35.
Yeah. I can see that. So Ashley went with Georgia as well. She said Georgia. I've gone back and forth on this game. I mean, this is first off, I think.
Hold on. What? Go ahead and say
Hold on. I think first off, I think this game, regardless of who wins or loses, I think both teams still 100% have a shot for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that one loss, I think honestly 2 to 3, honestly 2 losses, you're going to see a team get in with, especially with how the SEC schedule is, teams are going to beat up on teams, and I think that's why you're going to see 2 or 3 losses possibly in the playoff. Now, with saying that, I'm going to pull these out real quick. Let me do that. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. I'm going to come over here because I got something a little queued up here for you. Because for me, I'm going with... Hold on. I had it queued up and then it clicked off of it because I've been sitting here talking for like 2 hours. For me, I like...
1, 2, 3.
Give me Alabama. Give me Alabama big. Give me Alabama by 2 touchdowns. Roll damn Tide.
Hey, hold on. Let's pause for a minute, okay? I can't stand Georgia. It's Roll Tide till the day we die. I don't give a piss about that, but Tide. Man, I just don't know, man. Alabama's got to find an identity. And
here's the problem. Carson Beck is not a game changer. Jalen Milroe is a game changer. And that's the difference in this game. You talk about the freshman wide receiver that Alabama has. Look at the running backs Alabama has. We talked about this before. Every year we've known big name Georgia running backs. Who's Georgia's running back this year?
Yep.
Who's Georgia's big name wide receiver? Last year we had Brock Bowers that was there. Georgia has flown under there. Even the Clemson beatdown was not good. And even since then, they struggled against Kentucky. And you could sit here and say, oh, well, you know, they got Alabama coming up. They've got to go into Tuscaloosa. They've got to go to Bryant-Denny Stadium / Saban Field. And they've got to take out Alabama. And remember what happened last time, that these two went against each other. Milroe came up big in the biggest moment. And I think that I think Bama's going to come out and going to pop them quick. And Georgia's going to be trying to claw back. And unfortunately for Georgia, they don't have the playmakers to be able to keep up to claw back. That's my guy. That's my thing. I got Bama by 10 plus. Roll Tide.
Georgia by a field goal. Roll Tide.
All right, so that's enough of the college stuff. Let's go to, real quick, you and I talked about it, and I just want to make this point to anybody that's watching out there. If Reggie Bush wins this court case about the NIL stuff and suing USC, suing the NCAA, and getting any sort of money for it, I'm telling you right now, it will be the downfall of college sports in general. Because then you have any player, if Reggie can go back and sue and get money, any player that can. Jared Zabransky from Boise State was on the cover of NCAA 2008. What's stopping him from suing Boise State? What's stopping him from suing the NCAA? Joe Schmo that sat on the bench, but guess what? His name, image, and likeness was on the game. He can sue. Guess what? Guys can go back and say, well, you guys wouldn't allow me to get a sandwich from the corner shop that offered me a sandwich. I'm suing. You made my life harder because I had to eat top ramen every single night. You made my life harder. If Reggie Bush wins that suit, it is going to follow not just with that, it's going to follow basketball, baseball, soccer, any sport where these athletes are making money now. If you give that money to Reggie Bush, you can go back and back and back, even before Reggie Bush, and any athlete can step up and say, and also, like I told Travis, who's stopping saying, hey, well, I played high school ball. These high schoolers now are making NIL money. I'm suing my high school for it because they stopped me from making money. My state didn't allow me to make money when I was in high school. I'm suing. So on and so forth. It'll be the downfall of college athletics. It'll be the downfall of NIL, which maybe not be a bad thing, but it'll be the downfall. I'm not saying that Reggie doesn't deserve it. He absolutely does. But at the same point, it's done. It's gone. Move on, because all we're going to do is threaten all sports at this point going forward.
By him even
That's all I'm going to say about that one.
By him even bringing it up, that's threatening to the sports. If he drops it, who's to say Jamarcus Russell, Johnny Manziel, Bernard Robinson,
Cam Newton,
Troy Smith, Cam Newton, like
Johnny Manziel, even guys that are just bench warmers,
Ricky Williams,
can easily go in and say, well, I should have been making money. Even if it was something as small as, like, we've got, what's a local chain that we've got around here in Boise?
Five Guys.
Five Guys, right? Well, Five Guys is nationwide. But let's say, for instance, a BSU player has an opportunity to
What's the little pizza place right around the corner on top of Ann Morrison? They got the big patio. Like, it's right around the corner from your house.
I have no idea. But let's say Idaho Pizza Company, right? Let's just say Idaho Pizza Company.
That ain't
Who's to say that a third string quarterback that doesn't even get to play the field, a third string defensive lineman, a backup kicker, Idaho Pizza is going to be like, well, you're on the BSU team, so we'll offer you one free pizza a day. Well, a backup quarterback or a backup D lineman 10 years ago could have gotten that same deal, and they didn't. and think about how much money they could have saved by being able to do that by their name, image, and likeness, bam, you can sue.
Yep.
If Reggie goes through with it and he gets money, it could be the potentially end of college sports as we pretty much know it. But
moving on to the NFL.
let's go back to last week's game. So we'll start there. Kind of quickly rambling through these. The Jets just destroyed New England. Danny Dimes coming out. Danny Dimes looking good.
No.
Uh,
So the receiving core that the Giants have are doing their job, and that is
hold on. Receiving core is a stretch. The receiver, Neighbors, is doing his job.
Yep.
Green Bay? I mean, it was against Tennessee. Let's be honest. It's against Tennessee. What else we got?
Only positive thing from this next game from the Bears is Caleb threw for over 350 yards.
363, but still got the loss. Made a couple bonehead plays, bonehead moves down in the red zone. Can't have that. I mean, I did pick Indy, so I am happy about it. Man.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. I mean, Sam Darnold, talk about a resurgence in your career. And let's not forget, he also still doesn't even have Jordan Addison yet. Jordan Addison hasn't even played for Minnesota yet. TJ Hawkinson is still on the injury list. He's doing this with Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson. When that team gets back to fully healthy, watch out for Minnesota to make that run in that division. We talked about, is it Bears or is it Lions? Packers are still looking good. Minnesota, that may be one of the most entertaining divisions this year, and not because they're all 7 and 8 win teams. They could all be looking at 10, 11 games, 10, 11 wins.
Well, real quick, I want to backstep real quick to Indianapolis. As being my game. Shout out to Cross, who is leading the NFL right now with solo tackles with 39. Keep up the good work, gentlemen. Also coming in at third is Speed with 34 solos on the year. So Indy's defense knows how to fly around the ball. So kudos.
Indy's defense has also been on the field a lot because their offense can't do anything.
Yeah,
so that Philly-New Orleans game, I mean, talk about a sleeper.
Love it. And the way,
I know you're all about the defense, but
the way Jalen Carter acts right there at the end of the game, let it happen. If that is how he has to manifest being in that killer instinct, let that happen. Whoever spit on him, hey, you deserve to be chokeslammed by that man. But let Jalen Carter be who he is. That's the only way you're going to get that demon in the trenches.
Are the Saints frauds, though? I mean, we've seen them the first 2 weeks of the season come out with almost 80 points in the first 2 weeks, and then they couldn't do anything versus Philly. Are they frauds?
I wouldn't go as far as calling them frauds. It was just Philly had their number. That's just what
Pittsburgh?
We should have kept Justin Fields.
Probably should have. I mean, Fields is doing a lot with a little. I mean, Najee Harris, only 70 yards. Najee's kind of Najee's kind of main run, 60, 70 yards typically. But Fields.
He always seems to get 1,000 yards rushing. It's crazy.
Yeah. But Fields has got that team going. I mean, Pittsburgh is leading that division by 2 games. Let's not forget that. Not just leading that division, by 2 games. That's a major thing because if you think about it, you've got that gap. You could lose the next 2 weeks and still have first place in that division.
Real quick.
That's a big thing.
I need to back to the New York game real quick, the Giants.
Okay.
If he ever sees this, I want him to know that I see you. But Sexy Dexter Lawrence accepted my friend request on Facebook.
Oh my gosh. It's a fraud. It's a fake.
He responded to a message like, "Oh no, it's him." His Facebook set up just like Iapati's is.
Is Bijan for Cup and Mixon fair? I already have Chase, CD, and Wilson, half PPR. So Nolan, just to say here, do you have Bijan or are you getting Bijan in that trade? Because realistically, I mean, if it's me, there's no telling how long Cup is going to be out for. Mixon is also injured. So you get Bijan. If you already have Chase and CD, then yes, I would take that. Because Cup, you're not going to ever really play Cup because you already have Jamar Chase and CD Lamb. You're never really going to play Cooper Cup at any point. Mixon, I would say Mixon and Bijan, you're upgrading with Bijan opposed to Mixon. Houston has a lot of options to spread the ball around. Is it something that Mixon's going to keep getting the ball as he's doing now, or is it going to start being one of those things where they're going to start spreading the ball around? So to me, I think that's a great trade in your favor. You're not giving up, but you're getting more back. Because the fact is, Cooper Kupp's going to sit on your bench probably all year long other than maybe bye weeks. So that's my take on that one on fantasy football. Hey, Brian, I hope you're still in the chat, Brian, because, you are a massive Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, and I just want you to know that Bo saved football in Denver, and he smacked your Bucks around.
Hey, real quick.
26-7.
I want to disagree. Woo! I want to disagree. Bo, hey, I'm going to give it to Bo. He did his thing. But he did. You were hyping up the wrong Broncos. Give me Alex Singleton in the first quarter, tearing his ACL, playing the rest of the game, and leading the team in tackles with 10, and then being put on IR.
You keep talking about these defensive guys. Like, I'm just gonna go to bed. Like, nobody cares about defense. I'm kidding.
Like that, but ACL, you tear that and you turn around and not only play the rest of the game, but you lead your team in tackles.
Yeah,
with double digits against a pretty high speed Tampa offense.
So now that Bo kind of figured this out and got that win, do we see Denver kind of go on a momentum now? Do we see Denver? You do have Sean Payton. Let's not forget, you still have one of the best coaches in football. And yeah, you had a rookie quarterback, but that rookie quarterback has put up over 200 yards pretty much every single game. And now he's learning to not turn the ball over. What is your take on Denver going forward?
I'm going to have to look at their schedule. I mean, they, like I said, you beat an impressive Tampa Bay team, and you put a beating on it. Was this Bo's coming out game?
And that's what I'm saying. Bo showed up, played great.
If this is his coming out game, 216 yards.
Got the win. Didn't turn the ball over. He also rushed for 1 touchdown, though, as well. You can't forget that. So, I don't even know where to start with this next one. I don't know what happened. Vegas, I had so much money on you. -5.5.
I want to know what the business decision is that Antonio Pierce keeps referring to. What business decision?
I seen the replays on McAfee's show on Monday. They broke it down, and it's basically just a couple of guys kind of later in that game. And it's so hard because it's at that point the game was kind of already over. But there was a lot of guys that Chuba Hubbard would duck down and kind of go through the hole, and guys were kind of just acting like it was two-hand touch, just kind of pushing, not really trying to wrap up tackle or anything. I mean, at that point, they were losing anyways. It's kind of that thing of like, why are we even in here kind of thing. Like, it was one of those things where you were doing more harm than good, because at that point you should have just pulled your guys out. And if Carolina went down and scored again, you could at least hold your head up and say, well, we put our backups in. We didn't want our guys to get injured or anything. You still had your starters out there. They still couldn't stop them, and it looked like they just gave up. For me, I had so much hype on Max Crosby going into this year, and he's really underperformed, hasn't done anything really.
He's slower. All them tattoos on his back slowed him down.
Carolina won this game in every single facet of the game. Kudos to Andy Dalton, Chuba Hubbard, Deontay Johnson stepped up as well. How is it going to continue? No, I think that this was their one win that they'll get this year. Don't get me wrong. I think that they shocked and surprised Vegas, but Andy Dalton is not your savior. We already talked about, Bryce Young potentially getting traded. Are they going to keep him? Are they going to get rid of him? I think you do the right thing and you trade him away, give him his chance somewhere else, because at this point, you're not going to throw him back in there.
Do we know Carolina's going to get the first pick? No. Wait, they don't have the first pick. They traded it away, right?
No, they have it this year.
Okay. Do we see Shedeur in Carolina?
I don't think Shedeur will. I think Shedeur, if he gets drafted there, he'll pull an Eli Manning. I just don't see it happening. Tepper is not the guy. The only thing, and I'm going to ask you a question here in a minute, so I don't want to really get into it, is the only way that he could possibly go to Carolina is if Dion goes there too.
Yeah.
Moving on, though, Seattle looked really good, all aspects. They're playing shorthanded without Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet came in, played good. DK looked good. Miami's in trouble. Miami is, if I'm Miami, I'm calling every single possible team out there for their backups, whether that's Dallas with Trey Lance, whether that's Kansas City's backup, whether it's Atlanta with Penix.
We talked about this.
Even New Orleans trying to get Taysom Hill. If I am them, I'm reaching out to anybody and everybody that I possibly can. Buffalo trying to get Trubisky because Skylar Thompson came in and looked horrible.
We talked about Russ, and I know that's in conference and all that, but I mean, Russ ain't going to lead you to the Super Bowl, but he'll save his season.
I just don't see it because, like I said, Pittsburgh plays Miami in the upcoming weeks. You also you don't want Pittsburgh, who I said, they've got a 2-game lead in that division. You're primed to, with Pittsburgh, you're essentially 6 games away from making the playoffs at this point. You're 3-0. You're about 6 games away from making the playoffs, especially with how bad Cleveland is, with how bad Baltimore's played so far this year. You're 6 games away. And you've actually played tougher teams already. So, to me, I don't want to trade away Russell Wilson and then have to meet him in the playoffs with Miami in that offense and then have him kick you out. Because that's that revenge game. Just like we talked about Carolina coming out and popping Vegas because it was Andy Dalton's like, I got this. You can't tell me if Miami didn't travel to Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh to Miami and it was Russell Wilson, he's not going to come out there and say, you should have kept me and go out there and just ball out.
Yeah. Well, real quick, something with Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina's in trouble. Best receiver, or I'm not going to say best, but probably most experienced and that veteran leader and all.
Thielen
out IR, so that's a major impact to that offense.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see Thielen just end up retiring during the year. I know he loves the game and stuff, but at the same point, like you said, he's the most experienced, and I just think it's his time. And it's going to be hard with Deontay Johnson doing what he did last weekend, and Xavier Leggett showed up as well. It's going to be really hard for him to get back in there and really try to get balls, get targets when your team is doing that good. The score says 25-28. Let's not let this be known. This game was a blowout. Dallas had no shot. They got destroyed. Dak threw for 379, but Derrick Henry ran for 151 on us. It took a late touchdown, a fluke onside kick, another touchdown. This wasn't a good game for Dallas. It goes back to what I told you. Yes, I'm a Cowboys fan. If anybody's on here and they haven't watched our first two episodes, which are posted on our YouTube page, I am a Cowboys fan, but I said it earlier this year. I think Cowboys win maybe 5 games this year. We don't have a running back. Can you tell me who was the second leading rusher for the Cowboys this week?
I couldn't tell you.
Dak Prescott with 7 yards. That was our second leading rusher, had 7 yards. Our leading rusher only had like 38 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Zeke had 6 yards. Like, you can't have your second running back be your quarterback and only throw up 7 yards. You can if you're Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore's second running back did really good, but that was Lamar. Yeah, we were in trouble. I said it. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, we're going to go into next week's or this week's game, which will be tomorrow's game. It wouldn't shock me if we lose that game against the Giants. San Fran and Rams, good for the Rams. They came back. They won that game. San Francisco's in trouble. I will say that. Their defense is falling apart. Their offense is almost non-existent. We're now seeing what Purdy would be like if he didn't have a Ferrari offensive team.
Was Brandon Ayuk worth it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And the only reason why, it comes back to, who was it a couple years ago for
all right, so
Pittsburgh. Chase Claypool, right?
Oh, real quick, 4 games?
Mm-hmm.
Play 4?
3.
3? Okay, so in 3 games, I'm looking at 20 targets, 11 receptions, 119 yards, 0 touchdowns.
So here's my aspect of it, and this is kind of how I look at a lot of teams and a lot of games. When you took away the other options, he does not have the ability to create for himself. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you took away, like I was gonna say with Pittsburgh, when they had Antonio Brown out there, Chase Claypool was making a name for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Because the double teams were going straight to AB. You had one-on-one coverage, right? So how was it when it came time when AB left? How did Chase Claypool do? Nothing. You know what I mean? And we see that time and time and time again. And I think that when we see these guys like Brandon Ayuk, we see the numbers that he puts up and we're like, oh, wow, that's so amazing. But when you think about how the defense is having to play, not because of Ayuk, but because of McCaffrey, how the defense is having to play because of Kittle, how the defense is having to play because of Debo, that leaves not only Brandon Ayuk with one-on-one coverage, or he's fighting zone coverage and he's dropping in and just getting it, but runs, or the yak yards, the yards after his catch. When you take away all those other options, he's not that great of a receiver. He's not a go get open, go get the ball, make guys miss kind of receiver. He is a guy that needs somebody else out there. You know what I mean? Like, he needs somebody else out there to open up the field for him. He can't go do it himself. Detroit, Arizona, that was a great game. Kyler balled out again. But Detroit, I think if they use that run game, that Montgomery and Gibbs run game like they should, Detroit's going to be really hard to beat. But the way that they kind of keep doing this and trying to turn that team into like a passing team, I think that's causing Detroit to have problems.
I got to give a shout out to the trick play with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Gibbs. The old hook and lateral downfield.
That was smooth. Smooth.
How many times you think they ran that at practice?
Probably none, because if they did, I guarantee you old Dan Campbell would not have allowed that. That is not old school smash mouth football. All right. That's not taking out kneecaps.
We're doing on man.
Kansas City, Atlanta. I'm going to say this, okay? And this is what irritates me. Everybody, anytime Kansas City wins a game, everybody wants to dissect them and tear them apart. Here's the facts of the matter is, okay? Go back 6 years ago. Mahomes came on. They had Tyreek Hill. They had Kelsey. They had Kareem Hunt. Like Juju. Like they had these players like 6 years ago, right? Everybody was all about Kansas City because he was the guy that finally took down Brady. Yep. Right? Everybody loved Kansas City. Make fun of the Kermit the Frog thing. Oh, his wife Brittany's having fun out there on the field. And now everybody hates Kansas City. Why? Because they did exactly what you wanted them to do. Well, I'm so sick of Brady in the Super Bowl. Here comes Kansas City. They dethrone the Patriots. They dethrone Tom Brady. Oh, yay, yay, yay. Patrick Mahomes, awesome. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that's exactly what has now happened. Travis Kelce, his life has been dissected inside and out because he's dating quite potentially the most popular person on the planet with Taylor Swift. Who cares? Oh, we got to see Taylor Swift at the game. Well, yeah, because the amount of fans that she's brought in with not even playing football, but just young girls that now I'm sitting here watching the game. Kenna comes out and goes, "Is that Kelsey? Did they show Taylor yet?" She's at least sitting in here watching a little bit of the game because of that.
Yep.
Who cares? Travis Kelce gets a touchdown and they show Taylor Swift on the Jumbotron? Ooh, whoop-de-doo. You realize that happens almost all the time with teams? A guy gets a touchdown, they pan to the crowd?
Yeah.
Who cares?
They're singling in on one person. Right.
And I get it, but so what?
Hey, did Rashid Rice, was his wife on camera when he scored a touchdown?
Who's Rashid White? Who's his wife?
Hey, was Crocky J shown when Carson Steele ran the ball?
No, they showed Carson Steele's whole family though.
But they didn't show
because they were at a wedding. But it was his sister's wedding, and they showed the whole wedding reception, and that's been all over social media. Who gives a flying? It is a fan of football. Who cares?
Yep.
You're going to tell me if you're a pro, Travis, we joined a flag football team last year. You were playing football last year, tackle football last year and stuff. If you scored a touchdown and it was on TV and they panned over to Meg cheering for you, are you going to be pissed off? Are you going to be like, oh, they shouldn't show her? No, because guess what? You're gonna tune in to the game later on and be, wow, she's so excited. She's so happy for me. It doesn't matter. You don't like that? I'll tell you what. NFL, you don't like that? Start guarding Travis Kelce more. Stop letting him score touchdowns. I understand he's not having his best year. I get it. But at the same point, yeah.
What does Peyton Manning's wife look like?
What does Peyton Manning's face look like?
Wife.
I don't know.
What's Aaron Rodgers' love affair look like? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I get it's Taylor Swift, bro. But every time,
but that's what I'm saying though. She's the most.
Every time Kelsey makes a block, they show it. Every time he catches a ball, they show it. They cut his touchdown dances off to show her. Like, we get it. You're married to the famous, plain, simple white woman. We get it.
So let me ask you this though: when Dallas does something, whether it's good or bad, How many times a game do they cut to Jerry Jones?
Because he is the owner of the team and he is always in the media for what he is doing with the team because of his comments and his nonchalance.
So it's okay to jump to that and to do that. I'm just saying, you don't like it. Too bad. She's the most popular. She's probably, if NFL came out with a Taylor Swift jersey, I guarantee you that thing would shoot straight to number 1 on the top selling list.
You can't say if you don't like it, guard Travis Kelce better. Because even when Travis Kelce is screwing up, they show Taylor Swift. She has nothing to do with football other than the fact that she's dating a football player. Stop showing Taylor. I understand revenue. I understand revenue. I understand it's a new base, like a new crowd and fan base and all. It's bringing in more money. I get that. But they know that she's there. They know she's going to be there until we see the breaking news of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have split up. She's going to be there. We know she's there. You don't have to put her in our face every time the camera pans around. You don't have to put her.
I got no problem with it. It's 5 seconds out of the game that they go to her every time. I don't care. It makes no difference to me whether it goes to her or another fan.
I get it.
It is what it is.
It doesn't change the game or whatever, but it's taking focus away from the game.
I think it's bringing more focus to the game. But regardless,
Taylor Swift.
Jacksonville, Buffalo. This was a dog walk. I'm very upset about this game because I had a parlay that every leg hit. I had an 8-leg parlay. Every leg hit except for one, which is I needed Dalton Kincaid over 3.5 receptions. Every leg hit by halftime. I had 7 out of 8 by halftime, and Dalton Kincaid had 3 receptions at halftime. I needed 1 reception. Guess what? Unfortunately, Buffalo was winning so badly that Kincaid and them just didn't really play at all. So I lost it because of that last one. I called my big plug upset of the week was Washington over Cincinnati. I called that. Jaden Daniels is the real deal.
We were both on that train, and yes,
yep. Jaden is him. He can play. He can ball. He is good.
You know it. All right, so you got game managers, and you got the superstars and all. Like this man finds a way, and he's been doing it at LSU. He finds a way. And
what I loved about it, watching that game, there were multiple occasions where it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 3, and he's waving to the sideline to Dan Quinn. And, hey, Cliff Kingsbury, watch out for him being a head coach next year. He's bringing that offense out, but Jaden Daniels is over there waving them off, saying, nope, I got it. And already 3 games into the season, Dan Quinn's like, I trust you. You got it. And guess what? He got it. Did you know, fun fact for you, Washington, in the last 2 games, has not punted or turned the ball over in the last 2 games. They've gotten field goals or touchdowns every single possession for the last 2 games in a row. It's not the same old Washington football that we're used to.
No.
So here's my question before we go into this week's games and picks and analysis. Who's on the hot seat? Coaches, players, obviously Bryce Young, we know. Who's on that hot seat? Who needs a win this week? Or you could see their job being put into jeopardy.
Dallas.
Mike McCarthy, Big Mike. That was one of mine.
Yeah, Mike or maybe.
You know who my other one is?
Cincinnati.
I don't think Cincinnati's there yet.
Hey,
my other big one.
Hey, look, Cincinnati lose this week, they will be there.
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
Jacksonville is 0 for their last 8. And I'm not talking just about Jacksonville with Doug Peterson. I'm talking Trevor Lawrence potentially losing his job. If they lose out on that, if they lose to Houston this week, which I see Houston winning that game, if Jacksonville starts the season out as 0-4 and they're 0 for their last 9 games, do not be surprised if Doug Peterson is gone. And Jacksonville down there in Florida, it's nice little sunny little retirement town and stuff, right? There's a coach by the name of Bill Belichick. That would be a great position for him to go down there and take that younger team.
No. Belichick.
Yep.
I think we're done seeing Belichick.
He wants to coach. He's answering the phones. And you can't tell me with Shad Khan's money up there in Jacksonville, yes, Vlad, mid-season, because it's still 4 games in. You can still turn your season around. We have a 17-game season. We have 18 weeks. You can still turn it around. Your division that you're in, Houston's already lost a game. Indy's already lost 2 games. You've obviously lost 0 for 4. And then who's the last team in that division? Oh, Tennessee's 0-3. So for me, if they lose this game to Houston, I don't see Doug Peterson lasting any longer. You have a very young, decent quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. You have a great running back in Travis Etienne. You have potentially one of the probably top 10 linebackers in football with the other Josh Allen.
Oh, hey, you can't forget about Trayvon Walker.
Trayvon Walker, yeah. You have such a young, good team. You have Christian Kirk. Escobar, if I had to say Deontay or Jaden Reed, it depends. If Jordan Love's coming back, obviously Jaden Reed is the play, but there's no telling how long that is. Deontay looked good last week, but again, Andy Dalton, not really sure how long he's going to play. Was that a fluke game last weekend or what? Vlad, yeah, they've got that rookie Brian Thomas Jr. Like, if Jacksonville can't get it done and start putting up points and putting up wins, I just don't see him being there. I don't see Doug Peterson being there. There's too many opportunities out there. There's too many options for your team to just lose and go completely out. Johnny Goldstein, honestly, Ayuk is a complete dud. He can't get open. We were just talking about this. He can't get open unless if McCaffrey and all of them are there. He's not able to create space. He's only got 119 receiving yards this year. With those guys still going to be out, with McCaffrey still going to be out, no telling on Kittle or Debo or anything, I'd stay away from Ayuk this week. Let's go through these games. Dallas, New York.
Give me New York.
Give me New York. I'm not sold on Dallas. I'm a Cowboys fan, but I'm not sold on Dallas. We can't run the ball. Thibodeau is going to be in that backfield all game long. They're going to plug up the runs. They're going to make Dallas throw the ball because they know we can't run the ball. So for me, give me New York. I think that they pull that upset off. It's Dallas -6, but Danny Dimes got it figured out the last 2 weeks. They've done really well. They've scored 3 touchdowns. The Giants have scored 3 or more touchdowns the last 2 weeks in a row, and I think they can get it done again this week. New Orleans at Atlanta.
I don't like the.
Give me Atlanta.
I don't like the -2.5. Give me Nola.
I'm not sold on New Orleans yet. I'm not sold on Derek Carr. I like Atlanta. They showed a lot of fire, a lot of promise the last 2 weeks. They had the game. They come from behind with Kirk O'Chains 2 weeks ago. They pushed Kansas City to the limits last weekend. If it was in New Orleans, I might be saying a different way, but it's in Atlanta. Give me Atlanta with this one.
Robin, New Orleans.
Chicago against the Rams at the Bears. I'll let you take this one. You're the Bears fan, so I'll let you kind of start off on it.
The Rams, that defense has kind of been sneaky good without Aaron Donald. But Fields, Fields. Look at that. I'm still saying Fields. Fuck it. Give me the Rams.
You're gonna take the Rams. I
No, I'm gonna go with the Bears.
I
Honestly,
I'm gonna go with the Bears.
all right. So Caleb Williams, okay, 363 in the air, like that with the loss. I mean, that's still 363 yards. I mean, so I think he comes in this game now knowing that he can't air it out. It's just time to make smarter choices when airing it out. Offensive line, you gotta get it together.
Here's my take on it. A lot of talk this week has been about Bo Nix beating Tampa, beating a winning team, right? We've seen also Jaden Daniels, prime time, on prime time football, what he did the other night on Monday night, right?
Yep.
Caleb's got to be looking at this as I went from supposed to be the savior for Chicago. I went from the number one pick to now people saying Bears should have went with Jaden Daniels, and
Well, no,
Caleb should have been.
they're not really saying that.
They are though.
No,
They are.
What I have been saying is it more important to have the first pick or the second pick? Because it seems like the second pick has been working out the best the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So,
But at that same point, and that's what I'm saying, a lot of people have looked at it and said Jaden Daniels should have been the guy. I think give me the Bears because I think Caleb Williams' back is against the wall, and I think he knows he's got to get it done in Chicago. If he goes into Soldier Field and turns the ball over or is making bonehead plays, throwing the ball 30 yards up in the air before it even comes down and getting picked off, it's going to be very hard for Chicago to start 1-3 on the year with still tough parts of their schedule. You're going against a Rams team that has no Cooper Kupp, that has no Puka Nacua, a team that you should be able to outscore, especially with you being at home. It's a morning game. The Rams are traveling to Chicago, so they're already going to have a little bit of that jet lag. It's really, really early in Los Angeles for them mentally wise. I like Chicago.
I'm on it, but come on. This is an interesting one here, and I do not buy the 43.5 on it. I think we're about to see. First of all, is Love playing? Before I go any further, is it Love?
I have no idea. I haven't gotten any word on it yet. I think, honestly, even if Love is playing, I think Minnesota has the better defense. And I think I think they've put it together. I think Sam Darnold has found something in Minnesota. Aaron Jones, remember, Aaron Jones, revenge game, going back to Green Bay, trying to get that,
And he's trying to bring the Lambeau Leap to Minnesota. And I forgot what they called it, but look, do we get an Aaron Jones Lambeau Leap in a Viking uniform?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but I like Minnesota in this game just because even if Love comes back, how much is he really back? Is he too ginger on it? Is he going to be able to roll out and do all those things? Is he going to be able to run around and, all of these kind of things that you kind of hope that he's able to do, that he was able to do before? Is he going to be able to still keep doing that? Stop liking the video. It keeps popping up with hearts on my side. I like Minnesota. Give me Minnesota in this game.
Hey, you know what? That's my new thing with you, man. When you really get to harping on defense, because I know you hate defense, hey, I would give you a little bit of love.
I don't hate defense. I just think I like Minnesota's defense in this game. Don't get me wrong. I think Green Bay's gotten lucky these last couple weeks. Malik kind of got them in. Luckily, going against Tennessee, that was kind of an easier game for him. But I think now you're talking a division game, not just a division game, a rivalry game. Minnesota versus Green Bay is just as crazy as Green Bay versus Chicago.
Absolutely.
It is a rivalry between, honestly, those four teams, Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, and Minnesota, you could pair those any way that you'd want, and it's going to be considered a rivalry game. They all hate each other, and any of them could win on any given Sunday. I like Minnesota.
I'm gonna take Minnesota now. This is an interesting one. Pitt and Indy with Pitt minus 1.5. So I'm going over on the 1.5, but I am not taking points on this.
Well, the points is Pittsburgh minus 1.5, which means Pittsburgh would win the game by at least 2.
I'm talking about the over/under 40.5.
Oh, okay.
I'm not taking that. This will not be a high scoring game. I mean, we might see another 15-10 game, 18-10. But
so you're going Pittsburgh.
I'm going Pittsburgh with the win. I know it's Lucas Oil Stadium. I know how tough it is. But like we said it earlier, Fields just found something in Pittsburgh, and it is working. And
Fields may have found something, but you're going to the Loud House, or as McAfee likes to call it, the Loud House, at Lucas Oil Stadium. I like Indy in this game. I think Anthony Richardson, TJ Watt's going to get back there, but I think Anthony Richardson is elusive enough. They're going to run some QB draws. That's going to kind of suck Watt in more rather than being able to go around the tackle. They're going to have Watt be in more because Anthony Richardson's going to do a couple runs up the middle with QB draws.
TJ Watt, 2.5 sacks, and the half is shared with Alex Hines.
I think, give me Indy in this one. I'm going against you. I think the Fields magic, I'm not going to say the Fields magic runs out, but I think in this game, I do agree with you. I do think it is going to be under. I think it's going to be under the 40.5. I think, like you said, this could be a 17-10 game or a 20-13 game, somewhere right in there. I do think it is going to be under the 40.5, but I do like Indy in this game to pull that off.
All right, so moving forward.
Denver at the Jets.
You know what? He hosted us for all those years, and he's finally going to meet his match. I think Young Bo comes in and puts on a show. Do they beat the Jets? Yeah, I don't think so. But is they going to be closer than 7.5? Absolutely.
I think that the Jets are going to win this game. I think Bo's doing good, but I think he's going to try to put too much in. Watch for Sauce Gardner, 2 picks in this game. I do think Jets win. I do think they cover the 7.5. Bo's there, but I think he needs to try to not do too much. And I think that's what he's been doing lately. He's trying to do too much rather than just take the safe checkdowns.
Don't plug me in on Denver yet. Hold on one second. Let me look at something.
You're good. I'm not putting any of these in yet. The only one that I'll put in tonight or anything is that both of us go in the Giants, and then I'll do what I typically do. I'll go back and I'll send it to you Sunday morning and say, like, is this what you're looking at? That way, any injuries or anything like that, you have the ability to go back and look through.
Well, real quick, so this is why I'm kind of scared of it. Not scared. Why I think Bo is going to have a better game than what we're giving him credit for. But C.J. Mosley, starting inside linebacker, questionable. Jermaine Johnson, linebacker, injured reserve. Hassan Reddick, defensive end, out. Zaire Barnes, a third-string linebacker, injured reserve. Leaky Fotu, the defensive tackle, injured reserve. I'm looking at. By the way, hey, shout out to. I did not know this, but Jordan Travis is on.
One sec, Trav. Joe Keller, Deontay Johnson, or Amari Cooper. I look I honestly, in this case, I look at who's throwing the ball. If Andy Dalton is throwing the ball, Cincinnati's defense has already showed. I mean, Terry McLaurin tore up that Cincinnati defense the other night. So I think Deontay Johnson has a better shot to do that, opposed to Cleveland. You still have Deshaun Watson throwing the ball, and I don't trust Deshaun Watson throwing the ball at all. I think that Deontay had a big game. I think he'll have another at least decent game, maybe something around like 70, 80 yards, maybe a touchdown. But I think Amari is getting up there in age. And I think that Amari is kind of getting fed up with the fact that Deshaun is throwing him either 5 yards too low or 5 yards too high every single time. And I just think that your safer option is going with Deontay Johnson. They could end up right around about the same points. You're probably talking about maybe a point or a half point difference. But to me, I think the better risk is going with Deontay after what he just did, opposed to what Amari's doing. A lot of fantasy news today. A lot of fantasy questions. Philly, Tampa. Good game. Give me Philly. I like Philly in this game. I think that they've kind of figured out a little bit on this. Tampa, I think, is going to have to come back and think about what happened last week with that Bo Nix game and Denver. And I think Tampa is just not fully prepared for Philly yet. Especially if A.J. Brown is back. I don't know if A.J. Brown's back or not. I don't know if Devontae Smith has even woken up from that dirty hit that he got last week. He might still be asleep and knocked out from it, honestly. But the fact is, Saquon is still going to run for almost 200 yards against this defense.
All right, so Becton is questionable. Landon Dickerson is questionable. A.J. Brown is questionable. And Devontae Smith is questionable, as well as Lane Johnson.
So I have a feeling that you're going to see AJ and Devontae play if they're questionable. They went from out to doubtful to now questionable. I think both of them are going to play, and I think because of that, Philly takes this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Philly.
I think Cincinnati bouncing back. One sec, we got another fantasy one. Should I start Mixon or Singletary? Not sure if Mixon will play Sunday. That's why. So the problem is actually Singletary plays on. Ooh, Singletary's the Giants game, huh? Devin Singletary, yeah, he's on Giants. If it's me, I'm going to start Singletary, and the only reason why is he is the guaranteed play. Houston, also, you could potentially see what the Bills did against Jacksonville. You could see Houston do that same thing, where Mixon may not even be playing really the second half because Houston could potentially be up so big on Jacksonville. Jacksonville's got so many problems right now that that game might be a blowout by the end of halftime, and Mixon may not even play anymore. But also, if you don't put Singletary in, you're then at a point where you're forced to go with Mixon, and if Mixon ends up being out, you're kind of stuck, unless if you can move him over to like a flex position and maybe throw a receiver or anything in. But the hard part about that is it just depends upon your options. But if it's between those two, I like what Singletary did. And also Dallas's defense has given up a lot of rushing yards. Derrick Henry last week had 140 or 150 yards. Yes, it is Derrick Henry, but fact still remains that Dallas still gave up a lot of yards. I personally would say go with Singletary over Mixon in this case, just because I think you're going to see Houston try to throw the ball a little bit more because Jacksonville's back half is not anywhere good at all.
All right, so we kind of covered that Jacksonville game with that right there. And I'm right there with you. Houston backs, they bounce back with a huge win here. Look for C.J. Stroud to throw north of 300. Probably put it in. Yeah. 3 touchdowns. All right, so this is the one.
Go back one real quick, though. Go back one more real quick. Cincinnati, Carolina. We kind of jumped over that because of the question that was there. Cincinnati, I think they finally get their win, obviously going up against Carolina. Um, I do think that this game is a little bit closer than what Cincinnati would like it to be, but I do think Cincinnati gets it going. I don't see Cincinnati starting the season off 0-4. I just don't. Quick turnaround. They played the late Monday night game, so it is a quick turnaround. So expect kind of whatever Cincinnati's game plan was against Washington to kind of be that same game plan this week. They threw the ball a lot. They aired it out to Jamar Chase a lot over the top. And I think you're going to see that same thing. Look for Burrow to have north of 350 in this game, and look for Jamar Chase over 120 in receiving yards in this game, because Carolina doesn't have anybody to kind of guard Jamar Chase over the top. And I think here they're going to do the exact same thing that they did against Washington. Just play that deep ball and let Chase go get it.
So, speaking of Washington, I think we all know who Jaden Daniels is now. Hey, a rookie quarterback, 3 games in, waving off the team. I got this. Hey,
We see guys that are 4 or 5 year starters that coaches don't even trust yet at this point. Saying fourth and 1, 4th and inches, and the coach saying, nope, let's play it safe. There was a couple on those that they were even in field goal range. It would have been a longer field goal, but you expect your field goal kicker to make it. Like, there was a couple of those ones that they could have done, and he still said, no, put it on my back, coach. And he let him.
and not to have a turnover or punt the ball. Like,
In 2 games. 2 straight games.
and I haven't been you know what, I'm gonna call it like it is. I haven't really cared for the Redskins since they had
Commanders.
Don Taylor and Clinton Portis and Santana Moss and Chris Cooley and London Fletcher. Like, I haven't been a fan of them since those days, but these Commanders now, Jaden Daniels led. I'm really liking this Luke McCaffrey. I think
Yeah.
he might be an unexpected running for the offensive player rookie of the year, maybe. Like, I could see
Possibly.
that. But yeah, give me Washington all day.
I will say this. If there is a team in the NFL that is going to be more prepared for Washington, it's going to be Arizona's defense. They've got to face Kyler and that kind of like run around, make plays happen in practice all the time. So I'm not saying I do believe Washington is going to win this game as well. I'm just saying don't expect. Yes, Kyle, we do answer fantasy questions as well. I just don't expect it to be kind of a blowout. I think this is kind of going to be a back and forth battle, and it wouldn't shock me if this is a 21-20 kind of game. Like you said, I think Jaden Daniels is going to do his thing, but he's also not going to be able to do what he did on Monday night, where he was throwing the top off of it to Terry McLaurin, because you're going to have Budda Baker back there. You're not going to be able just to throw that deep ball every single time with a safety like that. What's this one? This is a 10-man, by the way. So the other day I traded Pittman and Mixon for Olave and Priest. Then I traded Brees for Tyreek and Henry. I mean, if you end up with Tyreek and Henry, that's a pretty good fantasy team. The only thing I'll say is Tyreek Hill, Miami doesn't have a quarterback to pass him the ball right now, so that's kind of a hard spot. You traded Tyreek Hill for Amari Cooper, Singletary, and Gibbs. That's tough. I'll be honest with you with that one, Kyle. Amari Cooper, that's just as bad as Tyreek Hill, honestly, because they don't have quarterbacks throwing them the ball. Singletary, I think, is going to have a decent game against the Cowboys. The problems with Gibbs is that he shares too many carries. When you're talking fantasy, is Gibbs a good player? Absolutely. But as far as fantasy goes, he shares too many carries, And that's what's kind of really hard is him and Montgomery. I mean, I think Montgomery had like 15 carries or something like that in last week's game. It's really hard to try to want to take Gibbs, especially like if you said you have Amon-Ra, it's kind of hard because if they throw the ball to Amon-Ra, you're great. Oh, yeah, you got points, but you also lost points. Well, didn't lose points, but you didn't gain points on Gibbs. If they run the ball and they run the ball and they run the ball, you're getting points and yards with Gibbs, but then you're losing out on Amon-Ra. So for me, for fantasy-wise, I hate having a wide receiver and a running back on the same team because every single play, one of your guys is guaranteed not to get points every single play. So that's kind of really hard. When it comes to wide receivers, my main thing about it is always kind of pay attention to who's throwing them the ball. You could have the best. Tyreek is probably one of the best wide receivers in the game, but when you have Skylar Thompson trying to throw him the ball, he's not going to do it. It's not going to work out for him. He's not going to get the ball. Same thing with Amari Cooper. Deshaun Watson is not the same Deshaun Watson from Clemson or from Houston a couple of years ago. It's going to be hard to get him the ball. If you can get a trade for Jonathan Taylor, I would absolutely do that. If you can trade Gibbs for Jonathan Taylor, if somebody is a schmuck enough to do it, Jonathan Taylor's been really great for Indy this year with moving the ball and getting the yards, getting the touchdowns that he needs. But you got to keep in mind these teams that have, just like Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet with Seattle, like these teams that have multiple running backs, it's very hard fantasy-wise to want to go to one of those teams. But yeah, I think going back to what we were saying here, Trav, Washington, Arizona, I like Washington as well, but I think this is going to come down to a field goal game at the very end of it.
Yeah. San Fran, they get over the hump and say a victory here, but not by.
Oh yeah. No, not the 10-point spread. I don't see that. I don't know who's all playing and who's not in this one. I know last week, pretty much every player in San Francisco, they were trying to call fans down from the stands to try to fill into play because everybody in San Francisco, the Madden curse is real. It's the reason why for my fantasy, I didn't take McCaffrey. And if anybody asks me, oh, if you get the number one pick, who are you taking? Not McCaffrey. Because I'm a firm believer of the Madden curse. I'm a firm believer in sports. Trust me. I've got clothes that I will not wear. I have cowboy hats that I will not wear on game days anymore because guess what? I wore it one time and the Cowboys lost. I have different combinations of shirts of Cowboys, hats of Cowboys, and I have different combos that I won't wear together anymore because of the fact that the Cowboys lost when I wore that combo.
It really does.
And the Madden curse is 100% real. And McCaffrey going on that, we've already seen. It wouldn't surprise me if McCaffrey doesn't play all year for San Francisco. But in that, I still think San Francisco wins this game.
So we're looking at Trent Williams, questionable. Debo is doubtful. George Kittle, down, is questionable. Dre Greenlaw is out. Javon Hargrave out. Christian McCaffrey, IR. D. Withers, another linebacker, questionable. Ricky Pearsall, shot in the chest.
I mean, Ricky got shot in the chest and still has a faster return time to the game than McCaffrey and some of these guys do.
I wonder if he scores, are they going to be like, Ricky?
Yeah, I like San Francisco in it just because I'm not so. Now, I will say this. Jacoby Brissett has not looked great for New England. Drake May came in garbage time, and it looked pretty decent. He looked scared. He looked worried. Now, should his first game be against Bosa in San Francisco? Absolutely not. I think if you're New England, you have to play Jacoby Brissett in this game. I think if you throw Drake May out there, I think that you're setting that kid up for failure going forward. You're going to put his first game against a defense that is absolutely stacked. I hope not, because it could be the end of the beginning of his career. Yep. But I do still think San Francisco, I just don't like the 10-point spread. I like San Francisco, though, for sure on that one. And also, New England is having to travel all the way across the country to Santa Clara to play in that game. That's a long travel. That's a long time on flight. I just see San Francisco being more rested and more ready for this game, especially after blowing that game against the Rams last week that they should have won and they gave it away. This game is, talk about the garbage bowl. Cleveland at the Raiders. I almost said Oakland again. I've done it like 2 weeks in a row.
These are normal again in the NFL. Cleveland and the Raiders back in the garbage bowl.
Yeah. Honestly, for me in this one, both defensive prowess in this game have been next to nothing. Myles Garrett hasn't really done much at all this season. We already talked earlier about Max Crosby is underperformed this season really bad. Cleveland's in trouble, man. I mean, we talk about guys that are potentially on the hot seat. I know you want Jameson. I know you want J-Mo in there instead of Deshaun. And you might get your chance this week. If Deshaun comes out and doesn't perform.
You know why? You know why it's going to work so well?
Why?
Because one, we get a great pregame speech. Two, J-Mo's from the great state of Alabama, as well as Amari and Jerry. And we do things a little different down in Alabama. You connect them three Bama boys together and watch the magic happen. Old or not, super old or not, watch the magic happen.
I think you might get to see it a little bit this week. Gardner Minshew's still starting. Vegas is keeping Gardner Minshew starting. It was weird last week because Gardner drove them down and got them that touchdown. Then they kicked the onside kick, got the ball back, and then threw Aiden O'Connell in there. And I was kind of confused because it was like Gardner just led you down the field for that touchdown to bring you closer, but then you turn around and just take him out of the game, which, kind of was an eye opener to me. Kind of like that's really weird, and that just shows Vegas of. Is that maybe what Antonio Pierce is talking about guys quitting? What is that going to do with? What is that going to do as far as the team morale? If you're out there in public saying that this team is, people have their own personal agendas, are guys going to show up and show that they're ready to be part of the team, or is it going to push them further away?
Well, that you keep hearing about, Antonio Pierce and Max Crosby. You got the Raider way.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's changed about the Raider way. You're still losing. So I think you're living up to the standard.
Me personally, this game, I won't be betting on it or anything. I don't like the 2 for Vegas. I don't like the 2 for Cleveland because honestly, this is one of those games that it could be Vegas by 10, it could be Vegas by 1, it could be Cleveland by 1, or it could be Cleveland by 10. There's no telling what's going to happen in this game. I'm just not a fan of betting on it. Obviously, we have to make a pick on it. I'm gonna take the Raiders just because of Brock Bowers and because of Devontae Adams. I'm gonna go with Vegas, but I don't feel good about it. I think it could go either way.
I'm gonna leave that game alone.
Well, you got to make a pick. I've got to put down something for your pick.
So every year in the NFL, we see it, at least one. This is my tie.
I can't pick a tie. I can't pick a tie, though. It's not possible for me to pick tie on this game.
Give me Vegas.
Okay.
That takes it bad.
Kansas City at the Chargers. Justin Herbert went down last week. They're expecting him to play in the game. Honestly, I don't think it matters if he plays or not. I think Kansas City takes this handedly. Chargers still got a lot to figure out. Herbert, this will be the third season in a row now that he's facing injury. Some are going to question whether he came back too soon from last year's injury. They haven't given him anything new on the offensive line to protect him. We've clearly seen that because now 3 weeks into the season, we already see the injuries piling up. He doesn't have receivers that are able to get open, so he's having to hold on to the ball more. J.K. Dobbins is doing his job, but unfortunately, when Herbert does have to drop back, he's having to hold the ball for a lot longer, and it's pretty much costing him potentially a career. If they don't get him some help in protecting him, you can't be injured 3 years out of 3 years in a row now.
Yeah.
And we said that about Joe Burrow when he first started and had his season injury and then came back and then got injured again. And you're going to have to get him some support. You're going to have to get him some guys that can block up there. It shouldn't be hard. You're playing in SoFi Stadium. You're in Inglewood. You're in California. You should be able to attract free agents. The problem with the Chargers is they just don't have a team right now.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get guys to come to your team and play for your team when you're trying to sell it. Yeah, you got Harbaugh, but you're trying to sell it as you're playoff ready when in reality you're a top 5 to 10 pick in the draft because your team is just not there. They outside of Dobbins, Johnson has been doing good at wide receiver, but that's only because he's the only option out there, Quentin Johnson. And I like Kansas City in that game. Look for it to be one that could be over kind of quick. Rolly, Kareem Hunt or Zeke, trying to pick up a backup running back since I have Rashad White. Well, Zeke last week had, I think, 3 carries for 6 yards. So if you're trying to get 1 to 2 yards per, that'd be great. Kareem, the problem is Kansas City going to use him? They signed him. I think he was on the practice squad. I don't know if they actually called him up, but they actually looked pretty good with Carson Steele. Isn't that his name? Or Carson Strong? Whatever his name is, the running back for Kansas City. He looked pretty good. He ran the ball really well. So the problem I think that you're going to run into with it is you're either going with maybe half a point with Zeke or potentially no points for Kareem Hunt. Now, if Kansas City does get up big and Kareem Hunt is called up and is on the active roster, you could see him getting a good thing on the second half of the game because they're going to rest all the starters. But to me, they have Samaje Perine is the other one. They've already got Samaje Perine and Carson Steele. It's going to be hard for Kareem Hunt to get a lot of playing time. They brought Kareem Hunt back not to be a starting running back. They brought Kareem Hunt back in case one of those two go down. If you're forced on it, obviously I'd say go Zeke because you're forced to, but you're not going to see much on Kareem Hunt, I don't believe. Hell of a Sunday night football game.
Like, you couldn't draw this one up any.
This is going to be a shootout. Buffalo at Baltimore. Baltimore favored by 2.5.
Give me Buffalo.
I also like Buffalo. The reason I like Buffalo, yeah, they played Monday night. First off, they get 2 back-to-back primetime games, but they played Monday night, but their starters didn't really play the entire second half. Josh Allen didn't take hits. They were winning by so much that Josh Allen was actually sliding out there instead of taking hits because he didn't need to take hits. That team is running on all. DeMar Hamlin finally got his Disney Pixar moment of getting his interception.
Von Miller.
That team, Vaughn looked nice on his shoestring tackles there. Seems like he gets one every single game where he's just run and dive and just swings that big paw around and just catches a shoe and they just fall to the ground. I don't know if that's going to happen with Baltimore, but I think Buffalo, I think that defensive line is going to be able to kind of contain Henry a little bit more, maybe hold Henry to like 70, 80 yards. They're going to make Lamar kind of pass the ball a little more, and I think that's why you'll see Buffalo come out on top on this one.
Yeah, I'm going with Buffalo as well. And like you said, shootout of a game. what, and the reason I want to go with Buffalo is, like you said, their starters didn't really play much of the second half of that game and everything. But kudos to Josh Allen for protecting the ball.
Mm-hmm.
7-0 touchdown interception ratio. And he's only
Completely different Josh Allen this year.
fumbled only one time, which happened to go out of bounds. Like,
Yep.
way to protect the ball.
And we say it all the time with him. Let Dalvin cook.
Let Dalvin go. So, let's see. This game is okay. Now, had we still had the healthy Tua and everything, this game might be worth watching because I could see if Tua wasn't hurt, I could see this being another one of those Miami games where they run it up, 50, 60, 70 points.
Yeah.
But now that we have no Tua, like 36 and a half, that's high for this.
So I'm going to say this. I'm going Tennessee. The reason why I'm going Tennessee, we seen Skylar Thompson could not move the ball for Miami. They didn't even try getting but here's the thing. When Tua went down, we knew he wasn't coming back in. Miami, you can't even say oh, well, it was hard to game plan. They had an entire week to game plan to figure out what they're going to do. They didn't try running screens to Tyreek Hill. They didn't try doing end arounds for Tyreek. They just didn't get Tyreek the ball at all.
Yep.
They didn't even attempt to, okay? They couldn't put up anything. They were down inside the goal line on 2 or 3 occasions inside the 10-yard line and came away with 3 points. That shouldn't be the case when you have one of the most prolific playmakers in football. But the fact is, and I go back to it, if you can't get him the ball because your quarterback is straight garbage, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have the best player on the field if you can't get him the ball. The reason I'm choosing Tennessee, though, they put up 17 against the Bears, they put up 17 against the Jets, and they put up 14 against the Packers. They have put up points. Yes, they are 0-3. 2 of those were because, Will Levis did what Will Levis does. But I will say this. Will Levis, 579 passing yards. He's completing 68% of his passes. He's averaging 6.2 per pass. He's averaging 193 yards a game. He has 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Yes, he has 5 picks. He's been sacked 15 times, okay? Does Devin Singletary rush for more than 60 yards? Yes. I'll say Singletary is going to rush more than 60 yards. Dallas's rush defense gave up 150 last week to Derrick Henry. They'll give up at least 60 yards to Singletary. Tony Pollard, though, 158 yards. He's averaging 52.7 a game. I just think in my look at this, I think Tennessee can put up the points compared to Miami on the other side of that. If you look at Skylar Thompson in that one game that he got to play, he is 63%. He passed for 187 yards. He had 21 completions in that game and only had 187 yards. He was 5.7 on average. His longest pass was 22 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, but he took 6 sacks. Okay? You can't do that. You can't take 6 sacks in a game like this. You have Achane, you have Tyreek, you have Devontae, or Jalen Waddle. You need to get that ball out, and he's just not it. And even the other guy they brought in, Tim Boyle, he had 7 completions for 79 yards. He had a 6.1 average per pass. He had a better average per pass than Skylar Thompson did. And he had 7 completions. But again, 1 sack. So they gave up 7 sacks in that game. If Tennessee's defense is good enough where they're going to get to him, I like Tennessee in this game.
I'll roll
Your
with
thoughts?
I'll roll with Tennessee for this one. I mean, I like Tennessee's offense. You got the D Hop, you got Ridley. I mean, let's see Will Levis light it up. He has a game. Let's call it
Yeah.
285 plus in the air. Now,
We talked about in the beginning of this, we talked about like who's on the hot seat. You can't tell me Will Levis isn't one of those ones that's also kind of on that hot seat as well. You do have waiting in the wind there. You do still have Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph had led the Steelers 2 wins, 2 games. He has led Pittsburgh to winning seasons.
uh
And you can't ignore the fact that he's sitting back there saying, "Hey, I did it in Pittsburgh and I didn't have any wide receivers. Now you've got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Calvin Ridley over on the other side, you got Tony Pollard in their back. I can go out and do this."
You got D Hop, you got Ridley, and
Okonkwo for their tight end is a good tight end. You want to know what's good though? You want to know what's really good that I love, and I wish we would do this the entire year. These dual Monday night games.
yeah,
I love this because let's be honest. If we only had the one Monday night game, the Bills versus Jags last week, we would all been tucked into bed and ready to go at 8 o'clock. I know for some of you guys, 8 o'clock is crazy, but we're on the West Coast. We're in Boise, Idaho. And for us, that game halftime was basically right around about like 7:30, 8 o'clock. It started at 5:45 or 5:30. So we would have been in bed and ready to go. You know what I mean? But having that second game is so nice. And this week, we got another one where Seattle at Detroit. Detroit's getting 3.5. It's Detroit minus 3.5. I gotta say, dude, Seattle's good, and I think Detroit is good as well. But I think Detroit needs to find their identity. Are they a passing team or are they a running team? Because I cannot tell you how many times it is sickening to me that I'm sitting here watching the game and I'm like, where the hell is Gibbs? I've watched 2 drives now and Gibbs hasn't been in the game. Or the first game of the season, I watched them go down and I'm like, is Amon-Ra not playing the game? Because they weren't even looking his way. Jameson Williams, 2 weeks ago, Jameson Williams lit it up the scoreboard, over 100 yards. But then last week, didn't do anything. And I think that's the problem is Detroit needs to find an identity of what we are doing because they have so many playmakers on that team. But you can't have it like, oh, well, today is this person's day, so all of our game plan's running through there. Then the next week, that guy doesn't exist anymore. Now our game plan is going through this guy there. If you find out what's winning you games, you got to stick with that.
well, you were saying that where is Ben or whatever. So I'm looking at 40 carries for 207 yards, and then 11 receptions for 76. He put 3 in the end zone. I mean, Gibson showed up. Now, Jameson Williams, 11 receptions, 209, which leads Detroit for receiving. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have that ability to be that balanced team. This week we can punch you in the mouth by running it. Next week we're gonna light it up, and Amaron and Jameis are gonna go crazy with Laporta up underneath.
So can I bring out one thing though?
Wow.
So you're talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, right?
Yep.
Week 1, he had 11 carries for 40 yards. Week 2, 13 carries for 84 yards. Week 3, 16 carries for 83 yards. Week 1, 4 receptions. Week 2, 7 receptions. Last week, no receptions. You know what's weird is it says he has no receptions and 0 targets, but he has a 20-yard receiving touchdown.
Because of the hook and lateral.
Oh, that's right. He had the hook and lateral. So, yes, he's getting more and more looks as far as as far as carries go. But I think the problem with that is that he's not getting the useful carries.
Yeah.
He's getting the carries that we're down at the 30-yard line. We got 70 yards to go. Let's give it to Gibbs. But then when it gets to crunch time, we're at the 30-yard line. We're at the 20-yard line. He's not getting them. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the main problem in my eyes is you're not giving him the ball when he deserves to get the ball. And eventually that's going to catch up to a team. That's going to catch up to Gibbs. That's going to put a bad taste in his mouth where it's kind of going to be that thing. Because like you said, he's got 40 carries. That's tied for 20th in the NFL. And his carries per game have gone up and up and up, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when you look at the game logs for David Montgomery, on the other hand, David Montgomery went 17 the first game, dropped down to 11 in the second game, and then had 23 carries in the Arizona game. Montgomery, his targets have gone up and up and up. But the fact still is, when you have two running backs going back and forth, eventually, last year it was different. Last year we seen a lot of times where Montgomery, like Gibbs would make a big run and Montgomery would come in and Gibbs was patting him on the back like, yeah, go get it, go punch it in, Gibbs was a rookie, so it was kind of like that thing, that respect thing. Go get it. But now there's going to be a point where Gibbs is going to look at it and say, I'm doing the workhorse.
I don't think so. Hey, we're seeing the same thing happen in Detroit, what we saw happen in New Orleans when we had not Reggie. It was Mark Ingram and Kamara, Thunder and Lightning.
And what happened though? Mark Ingram got upset and wanted out of there.
He didn't get upset.
Yeah, he did. He wanted out. He wanted out because Kamara kept getting everything at the last second.
Give me Detroit.
But you're going to Detroit. I'm going to go Seattle. I think they have a complete team. Geno's doing really good. Charbonnet's ran the ball good. When Walker gets back, he'll be doing good. I think DK has shown really good. Jackson Smith and Jigba. That defense, I mean, you want to talk about a good defense. Seattle's just their D alone out there. I mean, their draft picks. Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle from Texas last year, is just absolutely killing it. They have held teams to 20, 20, and then 3 last week. Everything about them, especially on their, when you talk about going against Detroit, one of the main things that you need is DBs that step up and shut guys down. And their team, I'm trying to get my thing to scroll here. The guys that Seattle has back there on defense, as far as Devin Witherspoon, Rashawn Jenkins, their linebacker Maffa is an absolute animal out there. When you got Tariq Woolen out there, like I said, Byron Murphy, good rookie that's been out there. You have such good guys out there that I think they're going to be able to contain Detroit's passing game. Jay, got to start 2. Waddle, Ridley, Mike Wilson, Rashawn Johnson, or Wan'Dale Robinson. Man, you got a really crummy wide receiver core there.
I'd start Waddle and Ridley.
I'd start Waddle and Ridley. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of stuck either way there. I mean, I think Ridley will have a decent game because I think Tennessee's back is against the wall. I think that Will Levis's back is against the wall, so he's going to have to come out and show that he can throw the ball, complete the ball, and I think that's going to lead to more increase for Ridley. Waddle, I mean, I hate saying it, but same thing with Tyreek. With Tyreek Hill is It just depends on if the quarterback can get him the ball. And unfortunately, Skylar Thompson hasn't. But the rest of the options that you have there aren't any that I would put ahead of Waddle, unfortunately. Waddle, you're looking at least maybe 50 yards, a couple receptions, and maybe a breakaway touchdown. But for the most part, Wanda, let me see here. Let me look this up real quick here. Are you looking up the same thing I am?
No.
Oh, I was looking up Wandell Robinson, but my friggin' thing is like sitting here, taking forever to load. Let me see. So you're holding Wilson against the Commanders. The problem is the Commanders have actually had a pretty decent defense. That's the problem with it. Yeah, I'd honestly go Waddle for you. He's just going to be your safest possible option based on everyone else. Wandell Robinson, the problem is Dallas's secondary is pretty much the only good thing that they really kind of have going for them. And you're going to see a lot of options going to Neighbors. Neighbors has averaged almost 10 targets a game. Robinson has 15 total receptions all year for 123 yards and 1 touchdown. You might see Robinson maybe get, let's say he even gets, right now he's averaging, basically about 5 receptions a game, but he's not averaging anywhere near yards. So unless if your point system really rewards receptions, you're not really gaining anything on the yards aspect of it. Waddle has the ability to possibly break one open to where he can get a 70, 80 yards or anything through the air, opposed to Robinson with the Giants. I think you're going to see more along the lines of this being more of a Daniel Jones and Singletary. They're going to kind of more of try to run the ball. And when you think about these quick turnaround games from Sunday to Thursday, the playbook for these NFL guys gets shrunk down so much that it's way more simplified. They don't have enough time to game plan. They don't have enough time to kind of go into a really in-depth offense. So you see a lot more, if you look back at normal Thursday night games, you see a lot more running than you see on any other given game. So expect more of a running game than a passing game, and that's why for me, I'd say go with Waddle opposed to going with the Giants wide receiver. Yeah, I think we got all of it in here. Who's your MVP so far?
Josh Allen.
Josh? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much that was my kind of go-to as well.
And my defensive MVP goes to Aiden Hutchinson.
Okay, that's definitely not a bad one for sure. I don't know if I was going to go there, but I mean that's
6.5 and 3 starts. But anyways, brother, I'm about to have to jump off here.
All right, I am as well. I will see you. Well, I'll talk to you later, and we'll figure out something for Saturday night with Bama, Georgia. All right. Later, buddy. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please go like, share our TikTok page, Gridiron Insights. Link is in my bio. Also, go check out our YouTube page. This entire broadcast will be put on our YouTube probably tomorrow morning. So if you missed anything or anything of that nature, go ahead and add our YouTube page, like and subscribe on that. And if you do have any questions for me or Travis, feel free to hit us up in the inbox. We'll be more than happy to answer anything. And we'll see you all next Wednesday. Later, guys.
Hey, bro.